This is Hunter with You Don't Know Ball. Today we're going to be looking at Lance Zierlein's mock draft 1.0 from NFL.com. As always, if you don't know ball and you want to know ball, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know what your favorite pick from this mock draft is. We're bringing you guys daily content. Let's get into it right away. So he says, in my first 2024 NFL mock draft, I'm using team needs and relying a bit more heavily than usual on my prospect grades/evaluations to determine who lands where in round one. As we get closer to April, though, my mock drafts will have less to do with how I see these players more to do with what I think teams want to do with each pick. As of writing, draft orders picks 130 are set. Obviously, the Super Bowl will determine the last two pick orders. But first off, he has Caleb Williams going to the Chicago Bears. I don't think this is really much of a surprise to anybody. I think kind of there's all this been like media narrative lately that Caleb doesn't want to play here. And every time something like that comes out, it gets proven false. And it's usually from, talking heads. It's not from like actual reporters like an Ian Rappaport or a Tom Pelissero, Mike Garafolo, anyone like that. It's always from like people that are just trying to get, stir up media. So pretty standard pick here. I think this is kind of what, everyone is expecting. I mean, last year at Mobile, Alabama, it was pretty much known that the Bears were trading the pick, keeping Justin Fields. The vibe is completely different this year. They're going to be trading Justin, taking quarterback number one overall, and I just don't see them trading out of the pick, regardless if they take a different quarterback. Because if you have the best guy ranked on your board, you want to do everything you can to go get that guy. Number two, we have the Washington Commanders going Jaden Daniels. So he says some prognosticators have locked in North Carolina's Drake Maye into this spot, but Maye flashed while Daniels sustained in 2023. I like the draft's top dual threat quarterback here. So I don't hate this pick. And my thing is, at the same time, like, this is kind of like a little bit different than usually what mock drafts have. Is I have seen Jaden Daniels go number 2 to the Washington Commanders, but usually, it's been like, oh, well, who knows what's going to happen. Let's put Jaden Daniels here. Not saying he's not deserving of the number 2 pick. He could definitely very well be the number 2 pick. And, I haven't I don't want to like put Jaden Daniels in the QB2, QB3 like discussion with Drake Maye. Like, I don't want to pick a QB2 or QB3 yet. I'm open to either of them being the number 2 pick. And I think Jaden Daniels did this in his 5th year while he was 23 years old. Drake Maye did it in pretty much 2 years at 21. And my thing is, I just have a feeling Drake Maye could very well go number 2, but I feel like he could be the faller. Like, not anything out of top 10, not even out of top 5, but I feel like out of the 3 quarterbacks, he might be the faller. So let's move on to pick number 3. We have the New England Patriots taking Marvin Harrison Jr. So I think this is the right pick. I don't think you go quarterback here. As I've said in the other mock drafts, I just think there's so much more you have to fix on the offensive side of the ball that it's kind of like, why are you throwing your quarterback in a position to fail? Like, yes, you could develop, you're starting to develop them, but like with what? With what talent? The offensive line isn't that good. They don't have a number 1 weapon. Get a guy that can be the guy for a very, very long time in Marvin Harrison Jr. He definitely has one of the lowest probably bust rates across all these candidates. Him and like Joe Alt and maybe like a Brock Bowers are like the lowest chance that these guys will bust. And I just think taking the best non-quarterback on the board, probably the number 1 prospect in the draft at Marvin Harrison at number 3, is the right move here for the Patriots. At number 4, we have the Arizona Cardinals taking Rome Odunze. So this is really interesting because I know Daniel Jeremiah had Rome as his number 3 prospect on his top 50 board, but I've not seen him ever mocked number 4 to the Cardinals. And the fact that Malik Neighbors is not here is very surprising. Not that like Rome can't go in front of Neighbors, they are different types of receivers, but I just I don't know. Like I this is interesting. Like I could definitely see this happening if the Cardinals want more of like a big body receiver. But cuz I mean, I guess if you get him it would pair nicely with Hollywood Brown if you decide to bring him back. But yeah, no, very very interesting. I like the pick. I like this mock draft. I feel like from what I was seeing on Twitter, it's still a blind like reaction because I haven't gone through the whole mock draft, but I've just been seeing this one is a little bit more out there, which I like because mock drafts are just exercises to see how the board can fall and how teams will pick differently. So number 5 is the Atlanta Falcons. We have them taking Drake May. So this is a trade with the Chargers. The Falcons are originally picking 8. It says new head coach Raheem Morris has plenty of offensive weapons, but he needs to run the show. May was inconsistent last season, but he has fantastic traits and high upside, so Atlanta makes a move for the QB. Honestly, if May makes it past the Atlanta Falcons, whatever the Chargers want, they can probably get because he has been QB2 for the longest time in like all these mock drafts, and it's like if he's getting to 5, I could see the Giants trying to move up. I could see, and the Giants would just need to move up one spot, but they'd still probably have to pay a premium. The Falcons, I could see the Vikings, I could see the Raiders. Like there's a lot of teams that need a quarterback, and the Chargers are sitting in a very prime spot if May or even Daniels is going to fall. I think if Daniels doesn't go to the Commanders, he has a chance to fall to 8 to the Falcons just because I just feel like people are higher on May because he's younger and he did it for 2 years in a row, whereas Daniels kind of flashed his senior year. But if May falls to 5, there's going to be a lot of teams calling up to move up. So number 6, we have the New York Giants taking Talisa Fuaga, which this is, in my opinion, really crazy. The fact that he goes in front of Joe Alt, the fact that he goes in front of Olu, because I'm doing more and more, obviously, tape evaluation, but right now I kind of have it Alt, Olu, Latham, and then Fuaga. But he is definitely, it says, so some see him as a guard and tackle. So guard or tackle. So maybe they're thinking about moving him inside, but it's kind of early to take an interior offensive lineman here. I mean, at the same time, you have Evan Neal and you've drafted high tackles these last couple of years. I don't know if you're going to do that again. And that also doesn't fix like the wide receiver problem unless you're going to go out in free agency and really ball out there. I don't necessarily love the pick from a position standpoint. I know that O-line is bad, but I mean, I feel like you've used really high picks on tackles before, and I think you just kind of got to let it play out a little bit more. And I think maybe like a Malik Neighbors or a Brock Bowers here would do a lot. But yeah, I don't really love the player here, and I don't really love the position here. At number 6, okay, but that's not, okay. I will say this. That's not to say like a tackle would necessarily be a bad pick. I'm just saying in terms of like need, At number 7, we have the Tennessee Titans taking Joe Alt. I've seen Alt mocked here a couple times. I think this is the right choice. Pair him with Peter Skoronski. You have a very high floor for 2 of your draft picks already for the offensive line. And I think obviously your team starts and ends in the offensive and defensive line. So with Alt having probably the highest floor of all the tackles here, I think this is definitely the right pick for them. Nothing much to talk about other than Alt is probably going to be, a top 15 tackle guaranteed. He could be higher, but this guy is probably going to be a top 15 tackle at some point in his career. At number 8, this is where they traded back with the Falcons. The Los Angeles Chargers take Terrion Arnold. He said Arnold fits the mold of a press corner that Jim Harbaugh employed at Michigan. Cornerback is clearly one of the top needs on the board for the Chargers. I really, really like this pick. I think Terrion Arnold can be the first corner off the board. He is a young, athletic, very moldable corner. I think he's a very physical guy who is very, very talented in terms of just his like physical traits. I think he can work a little bit more on like being exactly where he needs to be on the field. But at the same time, like that's something you can teach. Like the raw natural athleticism that he has is really, really important because that is something that you can't teach. And the Chargers beef up their defense, bring in Jim Harbaugh, who's going to be able to hopefully resurrect this Chargers team from whatever it's been these last couple seasons and really put a contender on the board. So I've never seen Arnold go this high. I've seen him go as the CB1, which I think is probably what's going to happen outside of like him or like even like a Nate Wiggins. I guess it's however you feel about what you want at corner, but I don't think 8 is too high for him, basically. Going into number 9, we have the Chicago Bears taking Malik Neighbors. Okay, so as a Bears fan, I love this. If Malik Neighbors or Brock Bowers is still on the board at 9, you run in the card. Like, you run in the card. Even if Joe Alt is there, you run in the card. And honestly, the Bears picking 9, they're in such a prime spot. Like, between the quarterbacks going and maybe a tackle or two going, one of the best skill players, whether that is Marvin Harrison Jr., Brock Bowers, Malik Neighbors, or Rome Odunze, that's 4 players. They're going to be there. One of them is going to be there at 9. And the Bears, in my opinion, need to take one of them. And Malik Neighbors, I mean, some people, not a lot, will have him ranked above Marvin Harrison Jr. I think, he is definitely a close 2. I don't think the gap is as big as people make it out to be. Marvin Harrison Jr., in my opinion, is still wide receiver 1, no doubt about it. And I don't think Neighbors is ever going to cross that threshold. But he is very, very close. So yeah, I think it's a great pick by the Bears. At number 10, we have the New York Jets taking J.C. Latham. It doesn't matter who it is. Offensive line, that's it. That's all you need. Offensive line. So I don't care if it's Latham. I don't care if it's Alt. I don't care if it's Olu. I don't care if it's Talise Fuaga. I don't care if it's Tyler Guyton. I don't care if it's Patrick Paul. Like, I think it would be a reach if it was Patrick Paul. But just O-line. That's all that matters. There's not much to talk about here. Latham is a big offensive tackle who is patient when you watch him. Good run game blocker. He's good in the pass game. I think he translates well to the NFL. Also, probably the strongest player in the draft. Going to number 11, we have the Minnesota Vikings taking Jared Verse. So we have our first edge off the board. Right now, the conversation is really Latu, Turner, and Verse. Honestly, Verse is the player I've watched the least, but I can see why they would go here. He is, as they say, as he writes here, explosive. And the other thing is, Danielle Hunter is going to be gone. I believe Marcus Davenport's going to be gone. The Minnesota Vikings really need to bolster that defensive line, give Brian Flores more weapons to work with. Also, like, their secondary isn't the strongest. So in my opinion, if you improve the pass rush or work on improving the pass rush, it puts less pressure on your secondary. So anything D-line help, in my opinion, here is a good pick. Number 12, we're going to go to the Denver Broncos, and they're going to take J.J. McCarthy. So 4 quarterbacks have come off the board in the top 12 picks. I believe that's 25% of the picks so far have been quarterbacks. I've never seen him mocked this high. I know. So they're saying NFL evaluators have described McCarthy's processing as elite. In my conversations with them, Drew Brees was a great processor, but he didn't have the same athletic ability that McCarthy offers. Yeah, so that's the thing with McCarthy is he can definitely use his legs to create plays and extend plays. I just don't know if taking him at 12 is the most value, but I will say this is something that I've kind of come around to, is if you believe that like the quarterback is your guy, it doesn't matter like the value of when you take him, because it's a quarterback driven league. And if Sean Payton truly believes JJ McCarthy can elevate him to a Drew Brees level, go get him. There's no point in waiting. Russell Wilson is not the future of the Denver Broncos. Maybe it's Bo Nix here. Maybe it's J.J. McCarthy. I would bet if the Broncos are taking a quarterback, it'll probably be McCarthy over Nix. I just get that vibe. But I can very well see them also going corner here just to pair up with Pat Surtain. But overall, this is a very interesting mock. I like it so far. Number 13, we're going to go Las Vegas Raiders are taking Byron Murphy. So Murphy is considered probably the best interior defensive lineman outside of Jerzon Newton. And he has, I say this every mock, but this is ridiculous for an interior defensive lineman. He has a 19.6 pass rush win rate, which is numbers you see from elite edges. And, the Raiders really need help anywhere on that defensive line. I mean, I know they have Max Crosby, but, oh my God, who was their edge that they took last year who did nothing? Why can I not? Tyree Wilson. Yeah, so they still need D-line help. I think if you get a rusher like a Byron Murphy on the inside, you can really bolster that defensive line here. Good pick. At number 14, we have, I also wouldn't have been opposed to a corner there, though. At number 14, we have the New Orleans Saints taking Leatu Latu. Honestly, I thought they would probably go O-line here, but getting arguably the top edge off the board here, not a bad pick at all. I think the Saints obviously just need as much help as they can get on both sides of the trenches. I think their wide receiver room's okay. I think their secondary room is okay. They just need a lot of help on that O-line and D-line. So, improving the best, most important part of your team is never an issue with me in the first round. We've seen what the Jets have done over and over again, building that D-line. And their defense really willed them to wins this year. That offense was horrible. And I'm not comparing the Jets and the Saints, just trying to make a point. Like, look at the 49ers. They always have good offensive and defensive lines. Like, that is where you win and lose games. Number 15, we have the Indianapolis Colts taking Brock Bowers. If Brock Bowers makes it to 15, there's something seriously wrong. He does not get as much hype as Kyle Pitts did coming out, but you could argue that he might be a better prospect than Kyle Pitts. And in my opinion, if he is on the board at 12, if he's on the board at even 11, I could see a team trading up to go get him. He's that good to me. And I understand, he's a tight end, blah, blah, blah. But okay, I've said this before. Look at the NFC Championship and AFC Championship. Look at all the tight ends in those games. They're all studs. Tight ends can really tie together an offense, especially if they're dominant, because they're such a mismatch for defenders. So I actually really like this pick here. Bowers, Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs. Let's go get a Calvin Ridley as a wide receiver 3 in free agency. You're starting to cook a little bit. Starting to cook in Indy. Number 16, we have the Seattle Seahawks taking Dallas Turner. I like Dallas Turner as a player. The Seahawks have a really good secondary, and they suffered last year from probably a weak pass rush who were not really creating pressure and shortening the plays that they were defending. And with Mike McDonald there, I think adding to the defensive side of the ball, because the offense is not bad. The offense is not bad at all. They just need to correct a couple things, fix the interior a little bit, and they'll be okay. Maybe figure out their quarterback situation. I don't know if Geno Smith is going to will them to wins, but Dallas Turner, when he gets his arms around somebody, they're not getting loose. The arms don't shake. It's a real sticky player. I like Dallas Turner here as the Seahawks improving their defensive line. At number 17, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking Quinyon Mitchell. So this is a massive rise for Quinyon Mitchell. I thought he was a first-round talent, but maybe more at the back end. But after what we saw at the Senior Bowl practices, as he said, this is kind of more what he's basing it off of, just kind of like the recent prospect grades. He was lights out. Dude was attached at the hip to these receivers, and the Jacksonville Jaguars have a lot of holes. I don't think they have any super glaring issues, but I think there's a lot of depth issues at important positions, and Quinyon Mitchell can come in and be a good player for the Jacksonville Jaguars. At number 18, we have Olu Fashanu going 18 to the Cincinnati Bengals, which honestly, I like the idea of the Bengals taking a tackle because they have Orlando Brown on the left side. I believe it is Jonah Williams. I could be wrong on the right side, but he might not be there next year from my understanding. Olu dropping to 18 is kind of nuts considering he's been OT2 for a long time and mocked in the top 10 for a long time. I really do like the pick, and I think it would be good for the Bengals. Very surprising that he falls to 18 here, but as we get closer to draft, we're going to see these guys rise and fall up the draft boards, and mock drafts from February are not going to look nearly the same as they will in April, even late April. At number 19, We have the Los Angeles Rams taking Nate Wiggins. I like this pick. Pair him with Witherspoon. You have a young secondary. You have a young defense that is excelling. Nate Wiggins is a very good corner. I think with the way the Rams are building their team, a quarterback also could work here to redshirt a year. But if you want to go more of like a developing young defense and improving an already impressive overperforming unit from last year, and when I say overperforming, I should say overachieving. Like, I don't think anyone expected them to be what they were last year. So good pick for the Rams. At number 20, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers taking Amarius Mims. So pairing him with another Georgia Bulldog, Broderick Jones, I like this a lot. I think Amarius Mims has a lot of upside. I think because of the lack of tape, it may scare teams, but I think Mims is still a very good player, and they have to improve that O-line. I think Isaac Seumalo is good. I think Broderick Jones is good. I think if you put another rookie on that line, you have something very promising brewing, whether you're protecting Kenny Pickett, whoever's playing quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think offensive tackle here makes a lot of sense. So at 21, we have the Miami Dolphins taking Graham Barton. So this is really surprising. This is the first time I've seen Graham Barton taken this high in a mock draft. But shout out to Lance Zierlein. This mock is actually very fun because it is just a lot different than all the other mocks out there. And maybe that's what he tried to do, as he said at the start. But Graham Barton, tackle, I believe, at Duke, but there's projecting him as an interior O lineman. The Miami Dolphins definitely need interior O line help. So he has the talent to step in as a starting guard or center on day one. So basically what Jackson Powers Johnson would be, that's where I usually see him go. But surprised that Graham Barton is here in the first, just because I haven't seen him here before. But right pick positionally for the Dolphins. At 22, we have the Philadelphia Eagles taking Kool-Aid McKinstry. Yeah, I mean, secondary help is needed desperately. I have got a couple comments that the Eagles fans don't think secondary help is like the number one issue. I would disagree. Obviously, you watch the games more than me, but just in the games that I have watched and seen, it just seems like that's where you guys kind of get picked apart. I know the linebacker play was really weak, but I think continuing, grabbing first round talent in the cornerback position, like that is such a premium position that it's like, yeah, you can have like good guys that you get value rounds, like maybe 3 or 4, but like if you want top tier cream of the crop talent, you're probably going to get those guys in the first round, or you have the highest rate of getting those guys in the first round. So Kool-Aid McKinstry here makes a lot of sense. At 23, we have Chop Robinson to the Houston Texans. So normally, I do not like Chop going in the first round. I think he is kind of a raw athlete. He still has a lot to learn, but with DeMeco Ryans playing on the other side of Will Anderson Jr., I think this honestly might be the best spot for Chop Robinson. I think from a coaching standpoint, from playing on the other side of another young player who is kind of well accomplished already, has done great things in the rookie year, I think this would probably be at a very ideal spot. And again, it's a trenches pick. I think you really focus on the trenches unless you really need premium, like a wide receiver or a corner. I think that's what the first round is for, is trench work. 24, we have the Dallas Cowboys taking Troy Fontenot. So Fontenot could stay a tackle or slide inside in the pros. If the Cowboys pick Fontenot and decide to move Tyler Smith to a natural left tackle spot, they'll have a left side that can protect Dak Prescott. Tyron Smith is getting older. I get moving Troy Fontenot inside, but I don't know if I love that here. Maybe like I would rather have like a Tyler Guyton. I'm not super high on Troy Fontenot, and like maybe I need to do more tape. I'm not finished with my O-line or tackle spots, but I don't know. I just don't love this. I know that I'm not opposed to O-line help here. I just don't know if the player is the right choice. Like I said, I would rather have Tyler Guyton, or if you're going to go interior, just take a Jackson Powers Johnson. At 25, we have the Green Bay Packers taking Tyler Guyton. Like this pick as much as I don't like it from a Bears fan perspective. I think Tyler Guyton is going to be a very good NFL player. And with David Bakhtiari, obviously his injury history, I think he's taking his last snap as a Packer. They need need a strong tackle here. They have a good O-line, a good young O-line that has been better, but I think Tyler Guyton can really step in and be a long-term answer for their O-line. Good pick here by the Packers, who are known to build trenches in the first couple rounds, with Lucas Van Ness going last year. At number 26, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking Ennis Rakestraw Jr. I like this pick for the Bucs. I think they do need secondary help, and, you could go defensive line, you could go wide receiver, but I think corner is a more glaring need. And Ennis Rakestraw Jr., like I said, I got to do more tape on it, but positionally right. And I think he kind of fits the brand of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They kind of have like a more physical defense, the way Todd Bowles runs his team. And I just think it's a good pick. I think it makes sense for the Buccaneers. At number 27, we have the Arizona Cardinals going Jackson Powers Johnson. So very interesting pick here. Pairing him with Paris Johnson. So we got two Johnsons back-to-back in 2 first rounds. And I believe they took... Who did they take at 4? Rome Odunze. So they already got the receiver to pair up with Hollywood Brown if he is there. And then you have Paris Johnson Jr., Jackson Powers Johnson. Good pick for the interior. I really like it. Makes sense because he is probably graded as the number 1 IOL besides Graham Barton, depending on how you have him ranked. And any O-line help helps. And with all these tackles off the board, I don't know really who else you would go here. At 28, we have Brian Thomas Jr. to the Bills. Love this pick. Pair him alongside Stephon Diggs. Even if they re-sign Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas Jr. is a big body red zone threat that I don't think Josh Allen has really ever had. And with him and Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid running around the field, that is going to be a scary, scary passing set for the Buffalo Bills and anybody that has to defend them. At 29, we have the Detroit Lions taking Darius Robinson. He is an edge rusher who has been shooting up draft boards. From my understanding, you can move him around inside, outside, whatever. But this guy obviously is newer to me, so I have to look into it a little bit more. And but yeah, so positionally makes sense for the Lions. They definitely need help on the interior, not interior, even on the other side of the edge, outside, on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson. At number 30, we have the New England Patriots trading up with the Baltimore Ravens to select Bo Nix. So, in my opinion, if the Patriots were going to select him in the second round, it makes sense to move up a couple spots and take him in the first, because then you get that 5th-year rookie option, or 5th-year team option, so up for their rookie deal. And the Patriots need a quarterback. They went Marvin Harrison Jr. If they want to get a quarterback this draft, they get 2 guys, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Bo Nix, that they can pair up for 5 years and develop. Very interesting and cool pick from the Patriots here, and a cool scenario from Lance Zierlein. At 31, we have the Kansas City Chiefs taking Roman Wilson. I don't know if I love Roman Wilson in the first round. I think he did kind of stand out at the Senior Bowl, but there's a couple other guys I would have taken here, maybe like a Troy Franklin. I think wide receiver is the right position choice. I just don't know about the player. I don't have an issue with Roman Wilson. I think he actually is pretty good, but I think what he showed at the Senior Bowl was a little different than what we saw all year. At 32, San Francisco 49ers take Javion Sanders, who is the tight end 2 on the board. I think it's an interesting pick, not a bad pick. I think maybe O-line would have been a better pick, but maybe with everyone off the board, this is kind of their next guy there. To pair him with George Kittle as he's kind of getting older, and to run that offense the way the Shanahan does, I think you do need a good tight end there. So not a bad pick, but I would have preferred maybe more of like a lineman here, depending on who else is taken in the real scenario. But this has been Lance Zierlein's Mock Draft 1.0. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I did. It was definitely different from all the mock drafts that we have been seeing before. So if you don't know ball and want to know ball, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, let me know your favorite pick from this draft, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you.